Um, it's 10:06 a.m. and I call this Waste and Budget meeting to order. Uh, we do have a quorum to conduct today's agenda, and with that, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda today? There has been a motion, has been seconded. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Move along to public comments. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to make comments with regards to the budget requests made by the Department of Lands and Natural Resources? Being there's none, Sarge, can we have the secretary come up with secretary? You have the team members that are going to present, or okay? So just guide, have them step forward. Once again, thank you, Secretary, for making your time available to us this morning with regards to the budget request of FY 2025. I believe you have your management team here and you're presenting the department's yes, needs, priorities. And with that, Secretary, I now hand over the floor to you for your introduction and your opening statement with regards to your budget request. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lesor Mamay, half a day, everybody, Tiro. My name is Sylvan Olupay Gisomar, and I am your Secretary of the Department of Lands and Natural Resources. And I have with me the directors of the four divisions under the Department of Lands and Natural Resources. To my left, far left, is Director of Parks and Recreation, Mr. Mike Cruz. To my left, right next to me is Ms. Rosemary Camacho, Acting Director of Division of Fish and Wildlife. To my right is Mr. Floyd Mosca, my Special Advisor to the department. To his right, Mr. Jack Ogumaro, Director of Division of Agriculture. And to his right is Mr. Jack Song Song, Director of Division of Lands and Survey. If you wish, Mr. Chairman, I'll jump right into the presentation that we prepared for you, hoping we at least cover as much information as possible. But at any time, members, Mr. Chairman, stop me and ask your questions after each of these slides.
Thank you, Secretary. You may proceed.
Thank you. So, just to remind folks of the mission and objective of the department when it was created, is to enhancing our natural resources, make sure that we use the resources sustainably so that we have enough for our future generations. That is our task. Um, we manage numerous programs. It is a voluminous department, and we're packed chock full of amazing people who are doing amazing work. As I mentioned earlier, the Department of Lands and Natural Resources has four divisions under it. Currently, there are other programs, for one reason or another, got pulled out from the divisions and placed under the department. But it is our intention to eventually migrate these programs back to their natural homes within each of the divisions under it. I think something that is outside of the divisions is the Soil and Water Conservation District that we work very closely with to help our farmers develop their programs for them, funding wise and uh, programmatic wise. This slide talks to the enabling legislation for each of the divisions under the department, with the exception of one, which I just recently learned about. The Division of Agriculture does not have a enabling legislation. It is often talked about as if it was already established, but under the public law that created the department, um, it was animal health and plant industry that was the original terminology for what is now the Division of Agriculture, which also houses these various sections under it. I'm going to be zipping through these slides, so if you have any specific questions, please stop me. As mentioned earlier, these are the divisions under the department. And then the three programs that are currently under the Secretary's purview at the moment are Endangered Species Program, the Coral Restoration Program, uh, which we share jurisdiction over with the Division of Coastal Resource Management, managing the Coral Reef Initiative funds, and then the Endangered Species Program. Here's some language to how or why the Division of Fish and Wildlife was created. Essentially, we are tasked to, at the division, to ensure that our natural resources, as in fish and wildlife, are managed sustainably so that our future generations can enjoy continuation of fishing and hunting. We are also tasked to enforce uh, laws when some of those species are at a number where they seem not to be sustainable, and then we, with our partners, determine that they are species of interest with the terms threatened or endangered species. But at the same time, we have a bunch of other programs under it that are federally funded. So, under the Division of Fish and Wildlife, these are the current programs that are, or sections under it: fisheries, data, wildlife, outreach and education, which is the aquatic and education program, the Smiling Cove Marina, which also houses boating access, enforcement, coordination, which is the admin section, the Brown Tree Snake program, and we also have a new GIS program under wildlife. Here are our numbers for the Division of Fish and Wildlife: 14 locally funded position or FTEs. 6 of the positions are filled. These are specifically the enforcement. We need to, we currently have, how many are currently? We 14 of the positions include the director position and the enforcement. Of the 14, 6 are filled, 7 are vacant. And then we have 60 federally funded. Below that is the number of capital resources that we have, our assets: 6 vessels, 4 of which are functional. We have 2-wheelers and 30 vehicles. 25 are functional. Some of our special account under Fish and Wildlife are Smiling Cove Transient Dock and the licensing permit. The Division of Agriculture is tasked with ensuring the sustainability of farming and ranching, as well as the health of our agriculture. There was a move previously to separate the division of quarantine or section of quarantine, which is an arm of agriculture. Uh, but that is also in the spirit of making sure that the CNMI is protected from foreign pests and uh, health, animal health type diseases. Here's a list of the programs that are under the Division of Agriculture. Most of these programs are federally funded, with the exception of the animal health Garapan Public Market, which we are hoping to work with the farmers to create a robust uh, farmers co-op so that they can eventually take over the Garapan Public Market, and then all these other programs. If anyone has any questions about the programs, please do ask. The numbers under the Division of Agriculture are 17 locally funded FTEs, one is vacant, so 16 are currently filled. We have six of federally funded positions, one is vacant. There are the numbers of equipments that we currently have under the Division of Agriculture. For revolving fund, uh, for agriculture, there's animal health permitting, equipment rentals, and farm lot permits. And we have Division of Lands and Registration and Survey. Here is the mandate. They're to make sure that all the pre-war properties are properly divvied out. In order to do that, there are some rules to that. We need to have a certain number of folks uh, that adjudicate these cases. But essentially, it helps the smaller programs and personal properties for folks that we also have surveyors that go out and help out in smaller projects like that. We have surveyors on staff that have probably helped several government agencies. We work with public lands. They're also the keepers of uh, some pretty old documents, very important documents, pre-war and those types of documents. And we're working really hard to try to find a way to digitize those and make them available as much as possible. But all that takes money. Here are some of the things that they do, as I mentioned earlier. Making sure that the pre-war properties are properly adjudicated. And if necessary, they go out and conduct the surveys themselves. The numbers for lands and registration include 11 FTEs, of which 7 are filled and 4 are vacant. of one truck, chainsaw, and the survey equipment. Currently, we have no uh, revolving fund, but we aim to fix that and start promulgating some rules for some of the services that we provide. The last division is the Division of Parks and Recreation under the Department of Lands and Natural Resources. I'm sure this division has been talked about a lot. They do a lot. They are the faces out there on a daily basis under the hot sun, crazy weather. They're out there beautifying our CNMI uh, with limited personnel. Just to give you a taste of the volume that these folks have to cover: landscaping, clearing. We work with everybody: MVA, public lands, different agencies and department asking for assistance in maintaining properties. It is a huge undertaking. Here is another example just to give you further insight on what is covered under the Division of Parks and Recreation. And for Parks and Recreation's numbers, we have 40 FTEs. 34 are filled, 4 are vacant. We anticipate we've just received 2 more resignations, so that adds up to 6. And the list of our current equipment are on there. And we thank all the partners from the legislatures to the grants office to lieutenant governor's office and other departments who have contributed to the and continue to um, give us equipment, um, and other partners that also provide other resources for the division to include fuels and materials to repair things. Revolving fund for Parks and Rec are the park fees. Whenever somebody needs to go party at one of the pavilions, they have to uh, pay a little bit for that. Non-divisions, but programs that are specifically under the secretary's purview at the moment. One of them is the invasive species program. It's a fairly new program, but it is a critical program. Um, if you think about what's happened in places like Hawaii, and you don't even have to go so far. You can just look at what has happened to the island of Guam. One small little intruder has really messed up their ecosystem out there, decimated or exterminated even 13 of the 15 bird species that they have. This is one of the most known invasive species, the brown tree snake. Of course, you also have the rhinoceros beetle who attacks our tree of life, the coconut tree. Um, right now, it is sort of establishing on the island of Rhoda. We're doing everything we can, collaborating with partners to try to contain that. Uh, but as I said, it's a fairly new program. We're grateful for the assistance from the Office of Insular Affairs, providing funding for that. Um, and this affects all of CNMI, invasive species. We're trying to grow the program. Of course, we're working very closely with our grantors. This is fully federally funded, and hopefully, we can come up with something on our own side to try to have continuity uh, of this program. The endangered species is also the endangered species program is also temporarily housed under the department. This is both terrestrial, which is funding from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and marine, which is funded by NOAA. On the terrestrial side, it uh, provides funding for the Crow project that's been ongoing uh, for many years. We should be hearing some great news from for regarding that program in Rhoda. We're going to be releasing a significant number of crows that were raised in captivity back out into the wild. Uh, if folks don't already know, the Marianas crow, is endemic to the Mariana Islands, and we uh, and and they're also endangered. Are they endangered? Threatened. So in line with finding their recovery or attaining their recovery, where we've funded this um, university to work with us to raise not just awareness but also the numbers in captivity and then releasing them back into the wild. On the marine side, we have the turtle program, another significant program, as it's culturally an important uh, species for our islands. We want to see what we can do about trying to get that off the threatened or endangered species list so that we can have some uh, practice some of our traditions. But before that can happen, we need strong numbers and justification to doing that, and we're working very closely with our partners at NOAA to do that. There are a total of 8 FTEs. All of them are federally funded under this program. Uh, some are on Rhoda, most are on Saipan. We aim to grow this program. The Coral Reef Initiative program is another program that is co-sponsored by the Department of Interior and NOAA. And there's so many issues that are, aside from just worrying about our fish in the water, we also need to look at it holistically and consider the impacts to their homes, the corals, where they also eat, find their nourishments. And so that is another big program that is being supported, and for our purposes, it's a combination of Division of Fish and Wildlife and Division of Coastal Resources, who have programs that are trying to make sure that our coral systems are intact or alleviating some of the issues that are impacting them, from watershed management, marine resource enforcement, um, and those types of things, non-point source. Right now, there is one position that is sitting under my department. Most of it is being administered out of the core coastal resource management. There's some history to this, but we're working very closely with BECQ to grow uh, DLNR's part in the Coral Reef Initiative program. But right now we house the coral reef restoration coordinator, who works very closely with me. So some of the needs, as we mentioned earlier, here is the Division of Agriculture, 17 locally funded positions. One is vacant. One of the last time I sat here, um, last year for the budget hearing, there was a bill that is approximately $1 million for power, uh, that has to do with the Cagman watershed. Uh, is it watershed or is the yeah Cagman watershed project? We currently don't have the wherewithal to pay this thing off, but we do have some ideas on how to, moving forward, reduce the cost that is incurred. So within a month, uh, we accumulate about $35,000 to support the five water wells up there. Um, some of the strategies that we're thinking of to reduce the accumulation of costs is increasing the fees. Because right now, Director Jack, if I'm not mistaken, there is a flat rate that is given to the farmers, um, and it's very nominal. It does not put a dent whatsoever into what is the actual usage of the waters. And so we're hoping that we can partner with the farmers to for them to take on some of that, uh, the fees. We're planning also to install water meters for each of the farm plots so that they can regulate themselves. At the Division of Fish and Wildlife, we're hoping that this is mainly the enforcement officers, which were funded in the previous budget, uh, but were zeroed out in the new budget. There are seven positions total. There, the enforcement section under the Division of Fish and Wildlife has a huge task, and we need personnel to get out there uh, and do those works. We recently hired on six personnel at the division, conservation enforcement officers. Right now, they're under provisional hire, and we hope that funding can be restored to support the continuation of these positions. Uh, very positive things have occurred since we've added on these much needed personnel. They've been engaged with the community. They're out there. They're educating partners, the vendors, and the hunting and fishing communities. I've heard nothing but positive things. Uh, Whereas prior to the, our coming on board, we heard absolutely nothing. So now they've become the face of the division in a very positive way. So the number down there, 23,394, is what currently we are advertising the positions for. Pay level 10-1. That's Conservation Officer 1. At the Division of Lands and Registration and Survey, there are total FTEs. Seven of them are filled, four are vacant. I think I may have mentioned it earlier, but in order to adjudicate land claims for pre-war, we need a total of three uh, positions. One chairman of the, what is the title? chairman of what? The land registration team, and then we need two land investigators, land title investigators. Currently, we have a chairman, and we just received the announcement that one there is somebody who's qualified to fill one of the land claims investigator, but we need one more position. So we don't need to fill all four vacancies. If we can at least get one of those filled for the additional land title investigator, that would be sufficient. And then we also need surveyors, but one for now should be okay. Division of Parks and Recreation. This one is going to be a doozy. I think you guys started discussing it yesterday, but uh, we were budgeted for 40 positions, and six are currently vacant. We are unable to recruit these new additional staffing because we have a current deficit of about $200,000 under personnel. The current budget has the entire division of Parks and Recreation at 50% funding, uh, with the thought that an MOU with the Department of Public Lands was going to cover the other 50%. That has not worked out for us. And so it's showing that 200 some $1,000s of deficit. And so finance and budget will not certify any new hires until this deficit is cured. How is that going to happen? We're not sure yet. We're still working through those. But what we do ask is moving forward in the new budget that this body please restore the division's personnel funding at 100% instead of relying on this uh, MOA that did not work out. The job is tasking, it's very taxing to have folks out there under the hot sun doing these maintenance work all over the island, and then we're unable to bring in new recruits to cover for those that are leaving. So that is our ask for the Parks and Recreation. We can discuss that further. Some of the things that we are looking to the legislature for assistance on uh, are these bullets here. Guam has instituted an invasive species inspection fee. As we know, all of these federal funds that we are currently using are finite and are not guaranteed forever. One of those is the invasive species program. We should start having some forward thinking conversations about how do we help ourselves. One such way is creating this invasive species inspection fees, much like Guam has done, where they charge cargoes coming in from off island a nominal fee. That fee will go into a special account that will support, become a resource for invasive species program and quarantine. Second item there is Mariana's Public Land Trust. We have been meeting with MPLT about this need for fish and wildlife. I'm sure you all have heard of the Saipan Upland Mitigation Bank Agreement, which developed a very um, streamlined permitting process with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And the agreement is that we will use this streamlined process with uh, for Nightingale reed warblers. The idea was to come up with a budget for an annual budget that would uh, manage the area that is already set aside in perpetuity for this agreement, and then come up with a number that we can associate with each stake that will eventually. The idea is for that all that money to be put into a trust that will generate a interest rate that will cover the management of that property. Right now, we don't have a current agreement with MPLT, and so the ask in our meetings with MPLT is that the legislature create language that enables them to receive this money from the mitigation bank, which is sitting in an account with finance right now, to invest on our behalf so that we can generate those interest rates that will support the management of the property. I think the idea is similar to how MPLT was created to do business for DPL. That is what we're also looking for, to receive our funding and invest on our behalf. The third item there is we're requesting for legislation recognizing coral reefs as national natural infrastructure. Um, this will allow CNMI to avail of funding from FEMA and hazard mitigation planning type things if we recognize the coral reefs as uh, national natural infrastructure. This just opens up funding veins for us to tap. Most of our sister jurisdictions have implemented this. American Samoa has done this as well. Guam, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands. So this is something that we are also interested in doing, which will increase our potential for leveraging funding. Fourth item there is submerged lands. I know that there is a piece of legislation that is floating around that will allow DLNR to assess some management fees uh, on deals on submerged lands. Right now, all the funding that comes in for submerged lands, we receive it at DLNR and then drive it over to public lands and give the entire amount to public lands. We receive none of that money currently. So this will allow us to um, assess some fee, which will help us manage the resources. The next legislation, as we mentioned earlier, is about Division of Agriculture not having a proper uh, legislation recognizing it as a division under the department. Right now, it only speaks to funding for materials and equipment and things like that, but none that actually created a division of agriculture. We we hope to fix that with your help. Below that is the the visit you all had from the Director General for SPC, or what is being called now as the Pacific Community, of which our department used to be very active in. The services and technical guidance that SBC has provided the CNMI and other island nations in the Pacific is significant. They have technical expertise. They used to fly folks from our jurisdictions to wherever those places are and provide conferences, trainings, and they also send out technical expertise here. I have participated in numerous SBC sponsored um, activities in my earlier years at Fish and Wildlife. I know that agriculture also is huge. Public health has uh, has also been involved in SBC related activities, the commerce. So we want to come back to we want to reopen this resource for our jurisdiction, and so I know that the governor's office is in communication with them, with the Pacific community to figure out a payment plan uh, and figure out how we're gonna come back to the table. the The amount owed is almost $1 million. I don't know why folks stopped paying their dues, but that is what it is. I think accumulation of over 17 or about 17 years worth of dues. And then the last item on there, uh, is just trying to have something commensurate with within the executive branch for the department. That, Mr. Chair and ladies and gentlemen, this is my presentation. We will be sure to make these slides available to you, uh, but this is our presentation.
Thank you, Secretary Gasomar. Before I open it up to the members, with regards to the submittal, I guess I'll work with your finance to one, those positions that were hired are not going to be funded. We need the impact of that one. Second, um, that's something the members we're going to have to discuss with regards to DPO. I think we're going to continue the discussion with DPO at a later time with regards to the percentage or that MOA between your department and DPL. So that's I think Rep Marissa is already the, the light bulbs is coming up. So with regards, I understand the administration is just funding the personnel, and we're assuming that the rest will be covered by the federal grants. Is that something that you agree with, or you want to go off record, or is that something with regards? I guess we'll try to fix with DPL because it's not fully funded. You guys are at 50% right now, so that's something that we're gonna have to address with the members. I don't expect your response now, but I'm gonna have to work with your finance, and I don't see OMB here, so we can't even ask questions to OMB. So we're gonna have to come back to this at a later time and try to address this. Um, so with regards to the shortfall of the department, how does the department? We saw some of your presentation with regards to generating revenue, just to at least curb the shortage. I know we can't fully fund as far as generating revenue to cover the shortage of the labor, but at least for operation, is it through federal grants or implementing revenue generating programs right now?
We've tried to be creative in that. And for example, we partner with MVA. Uh, MVA has some budget for repairing some of the tourist sites, and so we have several highly skilled folks in our roster that can do the work, but we don't have the funding for materials. They provide the materials. We go in there with our skilled labor and fix the parks, the tourist sites, and things like that. They also help us out with fuel. And then I think one of the most recent revenue generating that is under Parks and Recreation is leveraging fees for the access to Grotto, and that's working out pretty well.
Thank you. I guess because when we look at your federal fund level, we from our side and what's presented with us, the funds are there for your department, but we're just not sure what's allowed, what's not allowed. All we see is figures and what is going to be expended, I guess. But so we're not sure. Can you at least clarify with regards to the federal grants and what is allowed for in your department?
Sure, there are federal grants like the Sports Fish Restoration Grant. Uh, that funding, because it's leveraging fees on hunters and fishers and some fuel, the trade-off is that the enforcement will be a local responsibility. Everything else has to go towards the program to ensure that fishing and hunting continues to be a thing. And if that means uh, fishery projects to collect data on fish stocks and things like that, so that it can inform leadership and decision makers on what type policies are going to be implemented. Those are the kind of projects that are in place now. But the trade-off is that our responsibility as a state is to fund fully the enforcement section. There are some funding that can go to supporting that. It's a timing issue. We
Okay.
put in our request, but all the current available funds, federal funds that are under Fish and Wildlife, cannot support enforcement. We are looking at future funding with, say, NOAA or NOAA Office of Law Enforcement to support that. But that is, there are some things that we can't do with that.
Okay. Thank you for that. Um, with regards to the Cacman watershed project, obviously there's the money's still there. What's the update on the watershed? Is it still short? Does it? I mean, how much are we short by?
Jack, do you have an update on that?
Um, the latest update is for the group, the Water Task Force group, which consists of federal and local representatives. Uh, they've reviewed a proposal for a vendor to do the A&E plan, um, because it's been sitting there for quite some time. Things have changed, and the federal government wants a new review. So we're waiting now for the our federal counterpart to select a vendor of its own choosing, because I guess the vendor we selected is too expensive. We're still waiting, and when that vendor's job is done, that's when they'll issue a new proposal for
Okay.
somebody to come in to start the actual construction, I guess,
So we're
of the
still a long
project.
ways.
There's still a long ways.
Okay.
Money is there, but
We can't borrow that money first.
I think we've put up our share. It's a
Okay.
partnership deal, and our share is still there, I
Yeah.
believe.
Okay. Yeah. I usually receive updates on the watershed, but lately I haven't seen any update emails. So I thought it stopped, and I don't know where the roadblock is. So I just wanted to get an update on that one. Like I said, I used to receive emails. I was part of the watershed program at one point, and then all of a sudden I don't receive emails. I'm not sure if another person took charge of it, and so just wanted clarification. Um, Secretary, your department, maybe that's something Parks and Rec can answer. You're sitting on lots of local funds. Looks like Precinct Two has a lot of funds that are just sitting down. What's the update of that? Are we using it, or can we borrow that money as well?
I'll defer that to the director.
Okay, right now the local law 23-4 is being used over at Capitol Bowfield. You can see the renovations being done right now. That's a Spanish authorities, DPW. Um, they're they're in charge with the project. So when it's done, we're the one gonna be taking over. But I know the amount of the bidding, and I know how many left over. So we'll be reporting that to Precinct 4 representative because he's the author of the bill. So regarding 23-8 and 10. 8 is with Pickerman regarding we brought in all the documents already for the renovation of the Patsu Park restroom, Susupi Beach Park.
Oh, there's a Patsu there.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Now I see
Ah,
the objection over
people
here.
need people need
Oh, okay,
restroom.
okay, okay,
I've
okay.
been getting calls about that,
Okay,
so
okay.
we're
There-
trying our best to get those things done
There's
through.
there's no conflict over here.
No, no, no.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Just making sure.
Mm.
With regard,
Okay, now
so the sugar dock
2310.
container
Yeah.
restoration, is that still moving forward?
Okay, 2310. We had a site visit with CRM already. They identified the two locations for the container restroom.
Okay,
Everything is good. It's just that DPW would be coming in and doing an assessment because everything has to be connected to the main line. There's no they can't build any septic tank around that area
okay,
because there were issues with landowners where the pavilion is. That's only government property, but behind it, where KFC, there's a telephone pole right on the people's property.
okay,
So, okay, and then the 2315, that's recently passed by you get
the delegation.
yeah, delegation from
Yes.
Bijato regarding the we got a quote already for the lights, and then maybe we can use some for the Navy basketball, baseball field or the fences. I think if I'm not mistaken, they ran over it, and there's an insurance for it. We're waiting. If that don't go through, we can utilize the broken fence there that has been removed, and we'll repair it ourselves.
Okay.
We got some welders on our team.
Thank you, Director. We see the hard work you're doing out there, and we appreciate it, especially for the precincts. I like to see the baseball fields back in operation. As you know, the pandemic, caused a lot of delays in our kids, and we have a big gap that we need to fill with regards to the Little League program. So we like to see all the fields, and I'm sure none of the members object to those fields being fixed right now, and we appreciate that. I just wanted to get clarification regards to the update on your precinct two projects, because
Yeah.
obviously
Okay.
the DLNR holds majority of the funds. So I just wanted to make sure if there was an issue. Is it DPW or is it finance that's not moving
Okay.
forward?
Right.
So
Okay. So sorry about finance. We the precinct two, they set up an account already.
okay,
It's just that we have to follow regulations through procurement,
okay,
and then CRM because it's critical to the shoreline.
okay.
Very close. It's about 100 feet from the end of the shoreline, and 150 feet is the mandated the purview of CRM.
All right, got it, got it.
You know.
I'm not interfering with precinct two. Calm down, guys. I guess my last question is Well, let me open it up to other members because I'm sure they have. I'll open up the floor. Rep Marisa, then Rep Beneventi.
I'll yield my time to Rep Beneventi. Thank you.
Sure, Rep Beneventi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Secretary and your team that are here. I'm not new to the LNR because I've been there too myself, and it's nice to for you guys to come over and dispute your situation, your budget situation, because really, when I see it, I know you guys are underfunded. But I got few bullet points that I'm concerned over here that I have to share with the members and whatnot. To the secretary, I mean to the Parks and Recreation and new secretary, is DPL uh, writing grant and giving the funds over to Parks and Recreation? No.
No.
Because my communication with them was that they have told me that they were writing grants and they were allocating the funds to you, to your office. And that's something that's different because, as far as I know, park grants, even the U.S. Park Service, is supposed to go to the park, Parks and Recreation, basically. I don't know why DPL is the custodian of such grant.
We haven't received any funds. The only funds we received was there's an MOU back then, last fiscal year. And they tried to revise the MOU for this fiscal year. That's why the MOU states 50% of everyone on the roster. But what they were asking us is only the people that are stationed there. We got mandated to clear the whole property of the island under Parks and Recreation. I can't depend on 50% of everyone being at the resort for the whole week.
And basically, that's what it is. That's why I'm asking this question: is there any possible way that instead of DPO writing the grant to Park Service, your office or your department can directly write the grant to Parks and Park Service in the U.S. Park Service in order for you guys to avail for such grant?
If you guys want a grant writer, we can work with that.
I just want to add that we are working with the grants office and to access corp money. There is money for that, and we have been using some of those to augment the projects that we're working on. But as far as receiving funds from public lands for grants, maybe that is an idea for the future, but nothing has occurred recently.
Thank you for that, Secretary, because that's what they alluded. That they were getting funds to Parks and Recreation. Unfortunately, it's not. And thank you for that. Also, I know that IPI, the grants office, is really moving on and trying to not only Parks and Recreation, but basically all the different departments and divisions within the government. They're trying to help. So I'm glad with that. It's just that it makes me wonder. That's why I asked that question to Mike, the director for Park, because that's what was alluded to me with regards to the DPLs, saying that mentioning that they were giving the funds to Parks and Recreation, and that's news to me. I know. This is only a concern with regards to fish and wildlife, and with regards to wetland, as far as private landowners who wants to to open roads. They have the Eastman road already that was allowed, that was given to them, so they can, get to their property to build their house in the property. Unfortunately, the fish and wildlife biologists either deny or just not doing the survey or whatsoever as far as the reef warbler is concerned. They were justifying the reef warbler, but I don't know what it takes to move forward with this, because I've brought this attention also to the governor, and he knows that. I know that. I know that for a fact. I worked there before, and it makes me wonder how come they cannot. We cannot mitigate to try to accommodate these people with their own private land in order for them to build a house. The Saipan is not big enough anymore. There's a lot of population that we have, and we have to work together, in other ways. So that's basically one concern. That's a concern only. Another thing is, and this is kind of hard stuff to bring about, but just few weeks ago, I was somebody, a couple uh, farmers mentioned to me that local farmers that are renting properties back in Cagman. Uh, Unfortunately, they told me that they mentioned that some of the farmers back there in Cagman has subleased the property to Chinese companies or Chinese on the property. So that's a concern for me, because when that law was created to allow the farmers to have to avail for that type of opportunity, uh, it was given the fact that to lower the amount and everything for every hectare or every acre or whatnot, as far as the landmass that's available for any interested farmers to avail for that. Yes, they have to pay, but a meager amount of money that was supposed to pay, unfortunately, it's been subleased out to another Chinese company, and the Chinese company is now operating on the farms. That's a concern for me, because we're talking about budget, we're talking about income and everything, and yet, you know we're not doing it in a way where we're supposed to be guarding the efforts of our local people in order for us to try to move ahead as far as you know the whole intent of farming is, and the sustainability of farming for the entire people of Saipan. So that's the only concern. But just put that in mind. I'm not gonna say anything whether you're gonna do it or what, but I'm just mentioning that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Benavente. Rep. Marissa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, team, Eleanor. I can't express how important your agency is to the culture of our people, both Chamorro, Falawash, and the importance of its long-term and longevity of our people as a culture, and everything that encompasses us as Indigenous people of our land. So I'd just like to thank you for all your efforts in promoting such protections, because as we know, we are stewards to leave this place better, in which we now have inherited it. So my dream for the Commonwealth is that we leave it 100% better than what it is today. Um, so with that said, Secretary, can you let me know one more time what the acronym of SUMBA is? Sumba? Sumba?
Saipan Upland Mitigation Bank Agreement.
Okay, so you mentioned something about that, and you are correct. There is a substantial amount of money in this account. Um, what would you like for this body to do to assist you in ensuring that these monies are appropriated correctly to meet the mission of the agency?
Thank you, Congresswoman Flores. So the intention was all the fees collected for that purpose was supposed to be given over to the MPLT to invest on our behalf. That when I was director of Fish and Wildlife, we started this whole process to create a streamlined permitting process when it deals with endangered species. When we did that, there was a step-by-step process to make all of that entire machine work properly. One thing that fell by the wayside was creating a vehicle to allow MPLT to receive that money to invest on our behalf. And so that part needs to be fixed now.
Do you recall what that public law is that lacked that one very crucial component?
There was none.
There was none, so we have to create one. Got you.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Now, I guess this is for, if it's okay, Secretary, if I can address this question to your fiscal manager. Ms. Rose, under Business Unit 9053A, there is some funds there. However, the revolving account reads DLNR. I believe there's a typo. CAP, I'm not sure if that's capital items, commercial, and then it says VE. I'm not sure if that is a vehicle. But if you can identify what that business unit is for, can we use that? Is that just for vehicles? What is that for exactly?
Thank you, Congresswoman. That is actually for the corrective action plan. The transient dock was initially built under federal funds, and we were using it for commercial purposes after Typhoon Soudelor, and we never ceased using it for commercial purposes. So the government repurchased it, and that's the fees that we assess tourists to go to Maniagaha or out in marine sports.
Okay.
So all residents get free access to the transient dock, just non-residents have to pay $3 for round trip.
So that is what that funding source is.
Yes, and we use that funding source to pay for the 12% or austerity holidays so that our enforcement personnel can be on 100%.
Thank you
Thank you.
for considering those that were affected during that time. And it's good that there are some funds that allow you some flexibility to protect your workers during this economic crisis. Going through some of these grants that have been awarded, and there are several that still have to expire. But take me through this. I'm not sure if this is for you, but the CNMI, well, it's obviously DLNR. What is a Makuna? And apparently there was a grant under the TAP, I believe a TAP grant, and it's supposed to expire in September of 2025. There is about $78,000 that's left. Has that been used? Have you checked with the Office of Grants Management if those funds have been used yet?
She's making her way up. The
Okay.
Makuna funding is to address this that Makuna plant, which is it's an invasive species, and it's a huge concern because when the flowers start raining down on people, it sort of like fiberglass on your skin. It's very itchy, and so partnering with OIA, we receive funding to uh, get personnel and the treatment to go out and treat those things as folks are requesting. Yes, we are using that money. It supports 2 personnel here on Saipan,
Good. Okay.
and
All right.
fuel and operations.
Okay, so that's being used up. Okay, wonderful. There's another grant also that is expected to expire in September of 2025, which is the CNMI Invasive Species Coordination with Entomologist Recruitment and Employment. There is over $100,000 in there. Have you been using that also through the TAP grant?
You want to speak? I'll let Natasha Tomikani, our invasive species coordinator, speak to that a little bit.
Thank you for that question, Congresswoman. So that entomology grant we are using currently to fund a couple of personnel,
Good.
but that also includes a data analyst that we're
Okay.
announcing, and also operations that we're going to be using also.
Good. So this is 100% federally funded, I assume, which you cannot commingle any local and, okay. And so take me back. So when the government had implemented this austerity, obviously you could not place anyone under federal funds supported 100% under austerity, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure that that's clear. Now, there was one that was set. I don't know if it was expired or if there's any money left, but there is a CNMI invasive species coordinator year 3. Has that been exhausted? Do you need the business unit
Yes.
or the munis code?
Yes.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
So the munis code is
19.
1901 210063.
63.
Mhm.
That's been it.
The business code is 120875R. Okay, that's okay. Miss Natasha, may I suggest you get some chance and get an update from Mr. Epi?
Yes.
I'd like to know, at least for this body, what is left and what is his intention in regard to reapplying for these grants that may have expired. And if there was a request for an extension, we'd also like to see that.
Sure.
Moving forward, I think for sustainability and longevity of the program, knowing that these invasive species are not going to be eradicated anytime soon, if there is room for at least 5 to 10 years, right? And if you can include data collection on that. I know that your secretary has mentioned the importance of that in regard to meeting the mission of the agency with all the different divisions that you guys promote. So if that is possible, please continue that dialogue with him.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you asked for a tractor. Did you ask for a tractor or no? Not that you need it? Or a flatbed?
I believe the Division of Parks requested for a
Okay.
tractor.
So, business unit, Munis FG 261000006 is set to expire in September of 2025. 0 funds have been used. There is over 300 some $1,000 that could possibly be tapped into.
May I please get the project name? that's
It just
associated-
says tractor and trailer flatbed acquisition. It is a MAP grant. And the person, I'm not sure if this person is still here, but please reach out to Darsha.
OGM. Okay.
Okay? That money has not been used. There's over almost $350,000 that you guys can tap into. Okay? Secretary, you also mentioned something earlier about a valuation report of the land of the Commonwealth, at least public land for that matter. I don't know if you, all I heard was that we're collecting data to find out what the worth of our public lands are. I don't know, was that you or somebody else? Anyway, there's also money there that will help you figure out what the worth of our public land costs and provide you at least some valuation to the value of that, which in turn, I think DPL should be working with you. Yesterday they were here, and it was very upsetting to me that even based on their MOU, they were not forwarding money to public Parks and Rec for the services that they have done to assist with their mission. So take a look at, hold on. And again, just find out, because there's a substantial amount of money here, over $300,000. The Munis code is, okay, so I'm sorry, the grant is D as in David, 21, A as in Apple, P as in Peter, 10098. And I hope that there's some money there that could augment and help you with the success of your agency. I'm looking at 1057, and I don't believe that 1057 should be the way it is. I think that there should be an extensive amount of amendments to be made in 1057. Everyone has a responsibility in Public Law 1057. However, everyone still is working in silos, which in turn is holding up projects, is holding up all kinds of positive goals and objectives that you guys can meet. And that is very disturbing, not only for myself, but it should be disturbing for the rest of the Commonwealth who depend on DLNR and their collaborative partners to meet the goals that will ensure that public land and the natural resource in which you are guarded by are used to its benefit for the people of the Commonwealth, period. I don't have any other questions, at least for the first round. However, my office is always open if there's anything else that we have to do. Based on your recommendations, I think the SUMBA funds should be the first thing that we look into and possibly correct. The 50% and the MOU that is currently at the table with DPL to help support Parks and Rec fulfill its duty and mission under your agency. We need to take a look at that. But I am willing and I stand ready to work with your office to make sure that these corrections are made so that moving forward, that will not hamper or stop your operation to meet your goals and objectives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield.
Thank you, Representative Marissa. Let me recognize the Vice Chair for Natural Resources. Is that correct? Representative Sablan.
Thank you, Chairman. And promise I'm not going to question Precinct 3's preparation and projects. I'm sure our very good director here for Parks and Rec is fairly doing his best to achieve all the goals of all precincts all over the island. But I do want to ask the question on, because I know, Secretary, part of your presentation, you spoke about employees that are under provisional services. How many of these employees are under provisional? And those provisional services are going to deplete, or it will expire by September 30 of this year, right? And no funding after that is available. Can you expound more on that?
That's correct.
How many of the Fish and Wildlife
6 enforcement officers.
6 enforcement that are under provisional services, and
Yeah.
these fundings will be depleting by,
September.
and you don't have other funds to continue these 6 employees.
That's correct.
Okay. And moving along on the issue about your strategic approach with MPOT, with asking them their assistance and expertise, since they're very good in investing funds and getting interest rate out of those investment. So what are the have you initiated talks with MPLT, and what are the talks so far?
Thank you, Congressman. Yes, we have sat down with the chairman, the current chairman, and their legal counsel a month ago, I would say, I think. And the way forward, they recommended that we work with the legislature to come up with language to enable them to receive that money and invest on our behalf.
Okay.
It's not something uh, in their thoughts that we can do by MOU or MOA. It has to be legislation, a law that gives them that direction to do.
Okay, so it's a direction is what they want, because if you have the authority to give MPLT these funds, so I find it odd that they're are seeking an assistance from the legislature. But if that's the case, giving them that direction, because normally what they normally ask from the legislature is if there's any loan that the central government wants to take. Normally they ask us to pass legislation to provide true faith and credit, right? That we're going to be paying those loans back. But in this case, its direction is what they needed, so that's very clear. So I want to go back to the MOU or MOA that you have yet to execute, and it's really troubling that you guys will be in 200,000 deficit if no MOA or MOU is executed. And what's striking to me and troubling is that there was an MOA or U that was executed last year at February, right? And provisions were very general. And I know that the new MOA from DPO now wants specific locations, and I find it very troubling. And by them using this terminology of DPO's jurisdiction, we will do our best to talk with DPO. I think we need to appeal to DPO to kind of be in a mindset that almost everything that is public lands, though although it's designated to Parks and Rec, it's still public lands. So we need to set a mindset that in the notion that we're cleaning up public lands in general, and let's not dive into jurisdictional areas. And I will also join the team in appealing to DPO that MOA last year was executed. There was no issue. I see that it was signed by the current department secretary and the AG's office, as well as yourself and the acting back then uh, director of Parks and Rec. So I don't see any issue that we should have some hurdles when MOA was executed in the past, but now we're trying to change uh, the provisions and to be more specific, and uh, and we will fight for you guys in trying to have something executed. That's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Sablan. Any further? I see Rep. Julie, then Rep. Manny, and then Rep. Camacho.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Dilanor, Director, and the other department's directors. Welcome to the chamber. So my first question is, I know that Parks and Rec signed an MOA with MVA. I think it was sometime last year, right? what was the agreement or what was the MOA include? I mean, what type of collaboration between the Parks and Rec and MVA? Was there any type of financial assistance or what type of?
Prior for me taking this position last year on February, I haven't signed any MOA with MBA, so I can ask my secretary to answer.
I thought there was. It was. I saw in the paper that there was a successful signing off of collaboration with Parks and Recs to assist in cleaning some of those tourist sites.
Yes, there
I might
was.
be wrong on that, but I thought
We signed an MOA
Mhm.
with the, and as Congressman Sablon stated, we made it general so that it was broad enough to allow us to collaborate freely. Um, MVA. I'm sorry.
MVA. Yeah.
Okay, can I?
Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Okay, regarding jurisdiction on the tourist sites, if they amended our when they passed Parks and or they formed Parks and Recreation, it was formed with 11-106.
Mhm.
Then was amended by 14-27 to include all tourist sites under MVA. So we have jurisdiction on all tourist sites. So MVA would assist us on what we need because it deals with tourists.
Mhm.
So jurisdiction wise, we have the authority to manage and maintain.
Okay. And so, has MVA provided any funding assistance to your division?
Yes, they're very helpful.
Okay.
Whatever we need, we just request, they'll assist us.
Okay. All right. In addition to that question, most of these tourist sites or historical sites are public land, correct? Is DPL assisting in any of your fundings to, clean their
No,
basically?
no funding from that area other than
the
only when
MVA?
we're at the resort.
Okay. And is that something that, I mean, we can look into maybe DPL giving you guys some funding to help clean their properties, right?
Yeah, just to make sure that the
Yeah.
value is high.
Okay, thank you. On another division, land registration. This is for all. This is for the pre-war question. In Rhoda right now, there's only two personnel, which is surveying trainee one and a surveyor three. I know that you're asking for some vacancy in the land title investigator in Saipan and other like surveying technician. How effective are you right now without these positions in place? I mean, there's a lot of already, elders that have passed on, and they really want to take care of these properties before, to their what do you call it, to the next generation. I mean, what is the percentage um, that has been completed, and what is it, adjudicated or something? Yeah.
Congresswoman, to answer that, most of the pre-war properties in Rhoda is already been adjudicated, which is they already issued the title
Titles?
determination.
Mhm.
What is pending is just to issue the title, which is that's all we need, and to do some survey. I know that all the land investigator are retired, and
Mhm.
when they announced those positions on that time, I think nobody was qualified. That's why we lose all those positions.
I understand.
But uh, the issue of all those private property, like I said, it's all been adjudicated.
Okay.
They're all done.
Okay.
So what next is just to issue the
So
title,
there's only like
and
one. Yeah.
it's gonna completely 100% finish.
So also you said that right now they do some surveying out there, right?
Yeah.
Is there a revolving account for that? Is there
I
service fee for
I
like?
think the resident director is responsible for that.
Okay, because sometimes I've been told that the homesteaders there, we don't have a surveyor in Rhode or an
Oh.
appraiser, so they would ask Dilinar Land Registration if
No.
they can assist in survey.
to answer in regards to those, like those homesteader, any proposed village homestead or agriculture, it's the responsibility of DPO
Yes,
as
I.
mandated by
It's,
public law.
okay, okay. And I know they sometimes seek out the Dilinar because they do surveying, right?
Yeah. And I know they usually send their surveyors over to Rhoda to do those surveys.
I don't think they do because they're using the Dilinar's land registration. That's what I was
But
told.
like I said,
And
that's
they
DPO
should charge
responsibility.
DPL. They should charge
Yes.
DPL for that service.
Any public land, it's under DPO's
Yes.
responsibility.
You're absolutely right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Rep. Julie, Rep. Manny, then uh, Rep. Odon or Camacho.
Thank you, Secretary and team, for making your way up here. Earlier in your presentation, you talked about the enabling legislation for Department of Agriculture and how in the books it's listed as plant industry. To understand, that's probably the times have changed since back then when most of the farms, the agriculture homestead, it was designed for plant industry to export crops. I mean, in the CNMI, that was a big thing dating back, like Japanese and Germans. It's always about exporting, exporting. The needs right now are we cannot even supply our own hotels, businesses, restaurants. So I do support you in redesigning and providing that legislation to switch it over to agriculture. And a lot of I also look for your support for the educational providers, PSS and NMC. NMC is a land grant institution, so as a land grant institution there should be a lot of agriculture related programs, but as of this day there's none academically, and I know Mr. Floyd is very aware of that. So we also have to keep the educational providers accountable to that as well, because if, like they say, out of sight out of mind, if our youth aren't aware of the value of agriculture and the economic benefits, our people have a lot of land, and we need to show them that there is money to be made in agriculture. um, just just like we used to, our parents and great grandparents. But also the technology, we have to teach them the modern trends in meeting the demands of our community. I know this is also a concern for Rhoda and Tinian. The commodities are very expensive. um, I think we all remember when the poultry farm was still in Kagman and we didn't have to import that many eggs because we had a good supplier, but no one wanted to take that over. So now we're back to importing eggs. And we always talk about um, exports and bringing in investors from outside, but one of the easier ways to improve the economic activity here and GDP is to reduce your imports. So the more we get our people and our community to be the sellers and to be the producers, it's also going to help our economy. So in other states that agriculture is a big thing. The Department of Agriculture is a big department, even in the United States. So we really need to put more emphasis on that. And I look forward to working with your team in seeing how we can close that gap. On another note, in terms of what Congressman Benavente brought up earlier in regards to roads, easements, mitigation, and also with Congresswoman Flores when she brought up about the Zumba, I just wanted to find out the process. So let's say I was, let's say I have a 10,000 square meters in Marpi, and I wanted to get that cleared. But then there's like maybe a bird or something. So how, am I just stuck as a landowner? Like who's gonna pay for all that mitigation if there needs to be a mitigation? Is it the landowner themselves or is it the government?
Thank you for that question. So there are options available. The mitigation bank route is one option where you utilize an already prepared biological opinion. But mind you, this is only the Saipan Upland Mitigation Bank only uh, deals with the nightingale reed warbler. If you have other species like fruit bat or megapode, those are not in the mitigation bank agreement. It's only one species with the potential of adding the other ones, but there are a host of things that need to happen before that. So you could either go and dependent on how you proceed forward, right? So we had some programs with FEMA when folks had their properties damaged and they used FEMA funding to rebuild. We were able to use that same uh, permitting process, but FEMA paid for the mitigation. We partnered also with NMHC uh, because there is funding for building back after the storms, and NMHC was giving out these programs. NMHC paid for the permit. If it's your own property and there's no federal nexus anywhere, and you want to buy into that, you can. The way it is assessed is we first through the one start permitting process, DFW schedule a date to go out and assess the property, how much of your property is in the take zone, and then give you a number based on how much of that property is affecting the habitat of the species, and then a dollar figure will be figured out, and you get to decide whether you want to do that or something else.
So it's back on the landowner.
Yes.
Okay. Um, yeah, I think we really need to rethink that because that's also probably why a lot of landowners cannot do anything with their land, whether it's for agriculture or anything. Um, I mean, it's not their fault that the bird is there, and I know there's a lot of federal laws we need to look, but we really need to find a middle ground, like a way to make this work. Because I don't feel that and I think most of our community probably are on that boat. Like a lot of them cannot afford those kind of mitigation fees. Um, don't have the capital to do that, so we there needs to be a workaround. And in addition, when it comes to the, let's say, the access to property, landlocked areas or existing roads. I know in Finasiso in precinct 2, we're still waiting for that road by the Lafayette compound, because right now the public is driving into private property and the families are. It's been years and we're still stuck with that. So I is there a way we can, because all of this relates to the budget. It relates to the budget. It relates to the process. It relates to investment and the betterment of our community. Is there a way we can, for all the public easements or right of ways that are existing, just blanket permit, like instead of piecemealing it each time? Or like, let's say this year we focus on all of the roads on Saipan, so that when federal dollars come in, we don't have to wait for everybody to because that's I mean, just in precinct 2 alone, those roads are, it's been over 20 years. How many different congressmen have already passed by? That was one of the first issues that we tried to, Congressman John Paul and myself tried to get that done, earlier in this term, and still it's still pending.
Thank you for that, Congressman. Our Division of Fish and Wildlife is excited to partner with the community to try to find middle ground. It's our goal to have stakeholder buy-in where we can safeguard the resources which we are shepherds for, but also to find a way to move forward and utilize the land which we don't have very much of.
Yeah.
If we can determine that there is federal nexus, then we can expedite the process towards finding mitigation measures. The problem occurs when we can't establish that federal nexus because the holdback is it's actually federal law. We don't have jurisdiction to waive it or dismiss it. So we need them to partner with us to find a resolution.
I know this might seem orthodox, but we have tons of islands up north that are uninhabited. Maybe we can negotiate that for a blanket. But I look forward to working with you guys on that. But we have to find something soon. I mean, our people, like, they may not have a lot of money, but they have a lot of land. So we need to help teach them how to utilize that so that they can better their livelihoods. Thank you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add, we are also moving forward with identifying alternate measures such as an HCP. I believe in July, we have people coming out to work with our division to look at that. We've also started a translocation project many, many years ago, actually, when Secretary was then director, where we are looking at the Northern Islands to relocate some birds so that we can still utilize our lands here where it's populated.
And don't get me wrong, I support the work of Fish and Wildlife in terms of bird conservation. In fact, you just need to take some time to appreciate that when you're in the jungle or at the house and you can hear birds. And some of these birds you never seen before. Like growing up, especially in Finasiso, you didn't see a lot of those birds. So I do see a lot of Fish and Wildlife personnel in our jungles. And just this morning, getting my coffee at McDonald's, there's like two nice birds passing by. So that's something that maybe we don't take the time to appreciate. But I'm sure our folks on Guam, when they visit, they probably comment on that. But yeah, thank you for all you do. It's a tough balance, Fish and Wildlife, Parks and Rec, and a lot of competing interests. But even in this tough economy, I hope that, especially Parks and Rec, you see the kids in throughout the communities are going to be utilizing a lot of the basketball courts. And the more we invest in a lot of our recreation, the more they, our youth will be busy with the positive things and not going towards other routes. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Castro. Before I recognize Rep. O'Donnell, Rep. Vicente has the
Thank you, Chairman, and welcome everybody. So it seems like Parks and Recs is the go-to department for just about everything, right? It's getting confusing. MOAs and MOUs and do this, do that. I'm just gonna reiterate what everybody else has said is we need to fix it and fix it quick, right? So where the CUC, mayor, MVA, everybody, how are they involved in helping Parks and Recs?
A lot of that is a collaborative effort. If there is a huge event coming up, say with the 80th anniversary or a big group of folks coming to look at some specific sites, Public Works, Parks and Rec, Mayor's Office often collaborate and mobilize all their staff. And if it's such a big thing, I'll also task folks from Fish and Wildlife and Agriculture to help out um, in those kinds of efforts. But it's always, we based on an as needed, what the situation is, what the footprint is, and what the required resources need to be.
Gotcha. So, can you tell us the turnover of the staff when they resign? What is the cost of that? Is it uh, pay? Does pay have anything to do with it?
It's pretty diverse. I don't know how in depth I can get into human resource related stuff, but uh,
And somebody said it earlier. It's hard work being out there under the sun, under the rain, all kinds of weather.
yes,
So maybe that's something we need to look at, right?
it's pretty diverse. Some
Yeah.
leave for greener pastures, some uh, health reasons, some for illegal reasons. But
So
you
how
gotta
how how confusing is this 50%? How confusing is this 50% pay? Somebody else is paying the other half of it. Like, isn't DPL paying part of Parks and Rec's salary?
not at this moment. Not since we executed that agreement. We
Mhm.
have not. Yes, not at this moment. No.
Not at the moment, but that's what we're working on, right? And I believe I also saw in that MOU that Parks and Recs also needs to provide equipment. How true is that?
When Parks and Rec respond, they respond with manpower and equipment.
And that's all covered otherwise.
It's
Paid for?
Yeah, it's our own equipment and fuel and everything.
Okay. All right. So I guess there isn't a real issue other than we just gotta get it right, no? If they're not paying, man up. Tell them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rep Camacho. Rep Odon.
Thank you, Chair. So I've spoken to quite a few constituent, or they've spoken to me, and especially with regards to fish and wildlife. Now, I understand federal regulations and all of that, right? But at the same time, it's also counterproductive. And the reason why I say that is because here in the CNMI, right, are practically we don't have an economy to talk about, right? And when you do have a chance, even to spend $1, it's encouraged. Why? Because that dollar circulates, right? It makes the world go around. Now, when there's a family that wants to build a house, but they can't because Fish and Wildlife has to come in, and then they bring their bird calling machine, and then they start playing on that family's land. What do you think these species are going to do when you have a mating call, blasting on your land? Anybody? I can guarantee you that one of the sexes is going to come flying to whatever sound that is. It's a male or female. And right off the bat, fish are like, oh, you can't, nope, you can't build on your land because there's a weed wobbler or whatever. And now you just prevented that family from spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, right, from building their home. And then at the same time, the federal government steps in again, and then they designate a portion of land here in Saipan to transport these species to there. Again, we don't have a whole lot of land to talk about. We're not in the middle of Kansas, where there's land as far as you can see. So we got this federal government that's coming here dictating all kinds of crap that is hard for our people to move or hard for our economy to move, because federal government says you could do this, but then it says you cannot do that. Instead of saying, I'm going to try to make, the left hand talk to the right hand, but you can see each other, but don't talk to each other. No signal, no sign, nothing. Just turn your back and all of that. But so how is it that, we're trying to get funding, right? To get money to move, and we get to get, businesses to come in, right? To build the economy. So hopefully we could give you half of your budget that's cut, but we can't because our economy is nothing. And all this restriction is in play. So how do we get all around that?
Thank you, Congressman. Last year, one of the first things that Secretary Igisumar tackled was the survey protocols. It is true that previously they utilized callback, which is essentially like a mating call, sorry. But that was because we didn't have the bandwidth to address all of the permits that came into our office. Despite that, he impressed upon the division that we need to do more surveys where you actually go around and you listen instead of doing the passive surveys or the mating calls. So that is what we're doing. He's actually requested that they perform more surveys, a higher number of surveys instead of just, you go there one or two times and then you use a playback. I know that the playback is a recognized best management practice approach, but the secretary has stressed that for the CNMI, because it is a problem, we do have a large number of endangered and threatened species in the Commonwealth, but we also need to find a middle ground to utilize our scarce resources and also protect our natural resources. And that's what we have done. So they may use a playback still, but that's only after they have done the actual walking surveys.
Okay. So, we cannot have, one without the other, right? No. So if we want a bigger, more sustainable and richer economy, you know, something has to give. When we develop lands, right, something has to give. When we want people to have a better life, we need to have money circulating in the economy. Okay, so I don't know, maybe the public that is watching, maybe they could choose either you want a bird or do you want, $1,000 in your bank account? Because I can guarantee you they're going to want that $1,000, right? So, you know, when the federal government starts stepping in and prevents us to move the way we're supposed to move, yes, I understand endangered species, and believe me, I really do. But to me, in my personal opinion, you know, the human life is far greater, and that's just me. And at the same time, I would like to see the human being move up in the world, especially when they're trying to have a better life. When he inherits it or she inherits a piece of land and they want to have a better life and they want to build their own homes and whatnot, and then the government interferes because they got to do this and they got to do that, and it prevents them from moving forward, or you're delaying the process of them to succeed. A lot of times it just becomes so counterproductive.
So when it becomes a private homeowner's attempt to try to utilize land, we do make every effort to find alternate mitigation measures without automatically assigning a fee. But when it's clear cut and we are unable to, then we try to find ways to, such as Secretary explained, that we look at just percentage instead of charging the full credit amount. We'll say perhaps, okay, there's 7% of a credit is what the homeowner has to pay to be able to move forward. When possible, if they qualify for NMHC funding, there was several programs where we were able to get NMHC to purchase the credit on behalf of all of the homeowners. But we do really try to work with the public.
And we also have to understand that the longer the delay process and the more the fine, the more the fee, and the more whatever, we have to understand that these individuals or family, they're the ones that's paying your salary. So when you delay their ability to build, or to invest, you're cutting your own budget, right? So if anything, we have to be at the whims of, the public in order to move, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that's providing all of our funding. So if we don't allow them to move because there's so many restrictions, we're always going to see red on the budget request, right? We're not trying. Me personally, I could care less about what the federal government does. It's what the people here needs, because if you're putting all of this restriction on my people, that's preventing them from climbing the economic ladder, so we don't see red marks on this paper, then they're violating our covenant, right? To be self-sufficient economically and all of that, which if they don't allow us to, you're always going to see red marks. And I would love to give you guys the money that you're requesting for, but when there's so many restrictions, so many fines, so many fees, and so many delays, then don't expect to get, a much of anything. I don't. That's just reality, right? So, and one more thing. I'm good with that. Unless you want to.
I did want to add that I'm actually very happy to report that our wildlife section has done an incredible job. Previously, the surveys were protracted, but now we've gotten all of them down to under 21 days.
Okay, that's good. That's nice.
I just want to add that since we've got on board as it relates to the permits, there are some things that we can and we can't do, right?
But so who says you can and cannot do anything?
Well, some of our existence were created by law, so we're
Is
passed
it
to
local
do
law?
local and federal laws.
Okay.
But as it relates to the permits and some of the efforts that we've done, I'll give you some examples. When FEMA hit, when the storms hit, and folks needed to get permits to rebuild, one of the things that our offices did was negotiate with FEMA so that the community who is going to apply for that is not the one who is going to directly pay for those mitigations, but rather we sold a whole credit to FEMA. And then as their applicants come in, we go and detect whether there's absence or presence. And if there are, the permit is given already using the streamlined permitting process. We did the same thing for NMHC customers so that the community member is not the one following up on their permit, but rather NMHC pays for the mitigation so that it alleviates the worry and all that. Because previous to that, the customers were the ones coming in with their permits and their applications and following up, and we sat down and said, this is not good for the community. On top of all the headache and the frustrations and all these stressors, this is an addition to that. So we were able to work something out with NMHC, FEMA, just to give you an example of the things that we're working on to help the community streamline the permitting process.
Right. Okay. I got one more. Right. It's okay. So this public law 3-79, right? To provide procedures for the registration of land, correct? And to provide procedures for disputed claims, right? And this law has been in for over 40 years, right? Where do we stand? Are we still registering land, or are we still, in disputed claims?
They're still, right? They still coming around.
So are we still surveying land, or is all the land have been surveyed in the CNMI?
No, it all depends because even like if it's a new claim, we ask for all those information like evidence.
Mhm.
Then the claimant needs to provide us. Then we shall review those.
The only reason why I'm asking is because, you know, for over 40 years and we're still trying to figure out whose land is what is kind of ridiculous, you know. And I understand that, you know, after the war or after the war, a lot of documents have been lost or, you know, fabricated and whatnot, you know, but 40 years, that's a long time.
Yeah. But we have all the listing for those like those claims that's already been approved
Mhm.
and adjudicated. We have those the landowner's name in our possession.
Right. Again, the only reason why I'm asking is, you know, there's a lot of government agencies and a lot of people doing a lot of things, but most of the time they're just redundant, you know, or what do you call that? Everybody's stepping over each other's feet, you know, and it seems like nothing's ever going to get done, you know, after 40 years of, you know, bureaucratic red tape. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rep. Odon. Members, want to wrap it up. So, any first rounders that want to ask questions before I recognize Rep. Marissa? Any Rep. Leader? Taza gitinian? Malika todo tinian? Rep. Marissa, this is going to be short because we're beyond the 2 hours and it's lunchtime. So,
Is that an instruction or is that a question?
to everybody, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make this short. Last night I was at a business establishment in my precinct. And I'm not sure who these people were, but this is in line with Ms. Rep. Aldon. And I'll keep this short, but I'm sure there's people out there watching. And I could overhear a conversation about these individuals scrutinizing and criticizing the way we do things here. Now, in line with Rep. Aldon, I'll make it very clear that when we signed our covenant, we did not sign our life away. We did not sign anything away. This was a political union that we decided to get into with the United States of America, with the understanding that the people will always come first. Now, their birds and whatever it is that they think that is in danger to us, okay, I would hope that they say, okay, here, Sinamai, this bird is endangered. We don't go to their island or their cities and tell them that they have a rat infestation problem that looks like a possum that might have been injected with some kind of scientific poison that they just let out in the city that might be carrying rabies, for example. So I applaud the work that you do. However, Secretary, I know how much you love your native land the same way and the same way everybody here loves our native land. But no more moving forward. If the federal government says, okay, well, here's the credit. Yes, sir, you will pay the credit for our people. I didn't ask for you to destroy an island so that you can practice bombs, which could have actually brought us a lot of money. But I'm assuming we didn't know it back then when we signed this covenant. So they bombed it. And what do we find out later? Nauru ended up having millions and millions of dollars for that one thing that we had. And what did they do? Destroy it. So, whatever land we have, sir, protect it. And if Uncle Sam is listening to us over here, you sit and you negotiate. You do not dictate to us what we can and cannot do with our land. And as far as the land registry is concerned, maybe we need to talk to the courts. Because why? They created rules on probate that made it very difficult for our people to access the information affordably so that we can go in and advocate for ourselves when determining who owns our land, or the land that my family sat on, the land that I have to go now to your land registry to take, but I have to pay. So we will look into those things, but stand firm, Secretary, and you are in every position to protect us and our land. And I applaud you and your team. And once again, if Uncle Sam is listening out there, do not tell us how to run our organization, because we don't go over there to tell you what to do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield.
Thank you, Rep Flores. Is it is a quick yes or no question, sir? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'd just like to make a short comment to Secretary. I think all your team are in line with what you're doing. You know, like for example, Director Gomoro and Director Jack, both, you know, I've worked with you guys, and Rosie. Welcome to your house. And also no Mike, Director Mike from Parks and Recreation. You know what we do. We've worked together. And really, like what the Secretary has said, it's a collaborative effort that we have to work together. I know the setbacks of a lot of the challenges that Fish and Wildlife has. I was there, and I know how it is. You know, when we get Uncle Sam's almighty dollar, that's what we get, the repercussions of all the all the policies and procedures that was infused in us. So I just like to say this, you know, let's work together. I know your department is really under budget. When you look at it, I look at the COs, the conservation officers. You're lacking manpower right now with everything that they do and the expectations of Fish and Wildlife to do. Yet they're all paid under local funds, and I was wondering if there's any federal dollars that could be afforded to them in order for them to do, you know, do their duties more overwhelming as far as enforcing and everything outside in the community, because the challenges is there. There we got a lot of people and whatnot. So I applaud you and everything for standing up with us over here today. And you too, Mike, uh, Jack, and Jaco Gomoro and Jack Songsun, both of you guys, directors. You guys doing good, and Rosie, and also Floyd. I know the team that you have. I think, you know, we just have to work hard and sacrifice sometimes, because these are hard times, and let's work together. I know Patsu have the dollars, so he can try to he can try to probably help each other. But anyway, even if any one of us that that able ourselves to try to help any part of the division or any part on you guys, we can try to extend our support to you guys and help. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rep Beneventi, Rep Castro.
Thank you, Chairman. And since our good leader from Tinian doesn't have a question for DLNR, a constituent from Tinian is inquiring about the status of the Tinian Marina. There's 700,000, under for repair of the marina, and I know we completed Rhoda, or at least Rhoda's completed. But what is the status of the Tinian Marina?
Thank you, Congressman. We are actually trying to change our approach. We did bid it out, and the bid came in overpriced. Oh, and so what we are hoping to do now is just work with the contractor, do a request for proposal so that we could procure the docking supplies and then do the installation ourselves. Yes, there is a matching requirement of 10%, which we found for a lot of our projects that we either don't have FEMA approval yet to waive the matching, or there's some that require a match that we just don't have the money for.
Okay. Thank you. As you know, we're all connected, and it's if one island doesn't have the facilities, it affects also the other islands. So just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Rep. San Nicolas, leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know where Rep. Man is coming from, but that 700,000 is gone, and I hope the uh, the Fish and Wildlife can say more about this, because when was that Panglinan guy, Manny Panglinan, that 700,000 was supposed to rebuild that marina. The municipality is looking for that funding, but there's nowhere to be found. So your question or your comment is basically a rep. It's false.
We're not
Just
debating here.
point of clarification. This was just a concern from a resident of Tinian.
Yeah, that was like way before they message you. Could you verify that, Mr. Floyd Mosca? Could you verify that?
Mr. Congressman, if I may, that was funding that is from FEMA, that is under the purview of the Public Assistance Office, and the assessment was whatever the number was. We are waiting on the process for authorization from FEMA to execute. When we did get the authorization that we can proceed, the other hang up now is the 10% matching that is required. And so that's what we're waiting on for the Tinian Marina.
Well, what's the amount, Mr. Secretary?
We can verify that number, right?
I'll look into it right now.
Please do. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. San Nicolas. We'll get that information. Secretary, if you may, can we make sure we get that information to Rep. San Nicolas, because obviously it deals with his senatorial district. So please get that information to Leader San Nicolas as soon as possible, so that we can. I don't think our representatives are trying to interfere with the other islands. Because I kind of see someone from the island of Rota. Are you asking something from precinct? Your own jurisdiction? Okay. No, I think Ms. Camacho would submit the update to Leader San Nicolas, so that we don't get into this debate of the fundings of each senatorial district. Rep. Julie, I want to wrap up. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Secretary Igasor Mar, that Conservation Area Management Revolving Fund, each senatorial district, at least for Tinian and Rhoda, is 15%, right? That's supposed to be allocated annually. Is that correct? And that's for that fish and game revolving account. Is that the one for the same account?
The Fish and Game Revolving Fund, from revenue generated from the sale of hunting and fishing license and scientific permits.
And that's per senatorial district?
Correct.
Okay.
But we do have assent legislation that restricts the usage for the administration of the State Fish and Game Agency.
Okay. So that's under Public Law 20-44, correct?
The assent legislation is Public Law 13. 13-8.
13-8. So I was just wondering because last year I got a certification from Department of Finance that that code 6047 has $1 million plus in that revolving account. And then when I requested for a recertification in February of this year, it's down to $400. Um, I'm just curious what happened to that money. Have the central DLNR been utilizing, or I mean, there's no record of any appropriation, and according to DLNR, Fish and Wildlife and Rhoda, they've never tapped into that account.
Each senatorial district was using their revolving fund. We actually have to look into how do we bring it back under the central Fish and Wildlife so that we can assist the other agencies so that we don't get cited for diversion of funds. It's considered a federal fund.
That's correct, yeah.
But we haven't used that
Okay.
at all.
So I guess I'll just have to.
We will need to audit that.
Yeah, we need to
account.
audit because from just less than a year, it just disappeared. Yeah, yeah. All right, thank you. All right.
Thank you, Rep. Julie.
One more question.
Is it regarding the other island?
No,
the-
one more question. Just for the secretary. Recognize?
yes, recognize leader.
Secretary, how is your department here in Saipan engaged with the senatorial districts in their needs and concern that can be addressed for both Rhoda and Tinian?
We're communicating on a regular basis, and I visited with both mayors on Rhoda and Tinian and the resident directors, and we have a list of things that are of concern to them and some of the needs that they're requiring, and we're looking into how we can best support with our limited resources as well.
Are you aware of the disconnection of the landline for DNR? Second, Tinian?
No, I'm not aware.
Let me answer that. I am aware that I think the lines, 3 lines, I think, at the Department of Lands and Natural Resources in Tinian has been disconnected. What happened was we have been funding one of the lines under our forestry program, but I've been telling them too that there's got to be a better way of utilizing their telephone services instead of having one program pay for all 3 lines. I mean, there's no way we can justify payment for all 3 lines when the 3 lines were being used for other things. We have to prorate the usage or the payment for the lines. There are other programs at that DLNR that are also utilizing the lines. And so I'm hoping that these other programs pay their share of the service, like what we're doing. That way, they'll continue to maintain their line services. But how soon can they do that? I'm not sure. We can pay probably all of them Oh, I think they owe like 400 some or 500 some. We can probably pay from all the programs that are also being implemented down there and in on Tinian. All they need to do is just ask the other programs to do it, to help out. And when we combine all our resources, I'm sure that the telephone services will be restored. But for now, our forestry program cannot pay for all the telephone bills at the department.
Yeah, thank you for your response. But this is the reason why I asked this secretary about this problem, because doing public services is very important. And with this department, natural resources is very important to protect, conserve, and preserve. So this is the reason why I asked the secretary about the landline for communication to public services.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that we have to look into. That we have to uh, bring up their communication system in order for essential services to not only to Tinian but to Commonwealth wide. Natural resources, the Department of Natural Resources is one important department. Thank you. Thank you for your response. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Leader San Nicolas. I do note that, or I did note that now. We'll look at that. I understand each item agency should be able to cover that. We just got to find out now when we get to your senator district as to what happened, and then we can come back. Uh, it's 12:30. I'm gonna end it. We can come back. I think went over our time by 30 minutes, and but thank you, Secretary, for making a wave here to your budget request. We have noted the 50% for the Parks and Rec that needs to be addressed. We'll get with OMB as soon as possible in the next possible meeting that we need to address that, and the MOU needs to stop. If they're not doing it, then why continue having an MOA or MOU if it's not going to work? So I'm going to have my fiscal analyst work with your staff point of contact to get the accurate numbers so that when we do allocate the funds, we make sure that that department or that division is covered fully and not wait for the MOAs between the agencies. And as far as that, I think that wraps it up. I'll hand it over to you for the floor for your closing remark. Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of this honorable body. On behalf of my team here, the directors, the program leads, and all the staff of the Department of Lands and Natural Resources, we thank you for your attention to our requests. And we support the administration's budget submission. The stuff that we provide over here are, we leave to you if you can find other things. We surely would appreciate any help. And again, we thank you, and we'll continue to do the good work, fight the good fight. And we're out there. Our doors are always open. Come visit us. Let us know your concerns or ideas of how to do things better. We're certainly open to that. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for making a way over with your team. Um, we will we'll look into a lot of this the shortfalls, and I understand the administration may be revising a budget, and for us, I just heard that this morning, so that's that's gonna be a little bit scarier. But what we have right now is we're gonna work with what we have in front of us, and the main one is to address those employees that are affected by the MOAs, and I think that goes for the other islands too. No, there is some employees that were in that needs to be addressed. So, with that, thank you again. Thank you, members. Thank you to the staff. And I'll now adjourn at 12:30, 1 p.m. Thank you, members. We'll see you at 1:30.